The rejection email glowed like a wound on Dr. Victoria Chen's laptop screen. 6:45 in the morning, and the empty boardroom of Northwestern University's mathematics department felt like a courtroom where she'd just been sentenced. Dear Dr. Chen, after careful consideration, we've decided to award the department chair position and the $3 million Harrington Research Grant to Dr. Richard Blackwell. The board felt your leadership approach lacks warmth, perhaps in a few years. Warmth. Her reflection stared back from the dark window. Designer suit sharp enough to cut glass, hair pulled into a bun so tight her temples ached, eyes that hadn't seen sleep in 36 hours. She looked like success packaged in expensive fabric. She looked like everything her immigrant parents had sacrificed for. She looked utterly, devastatingly alone. Her phone sat on the mahogany table, displaying a text from 2 years ago that she'd never been able to delete. Her mother's last message before the stroke: "When will you give me grandchildren, Victoria? Success means nothing if you die alone." That night, Victoria had typed a response. "Maybe next year, Mom," but never sent it. 3 hours later, her mother was gone. The words hung in digital limbo forever, trapped between intention and loss. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, indifferent. Outside, Chicago was waking up. Traffic sounds, distant sirens, the city's relentless heartbeat. Inside, Victoria Chen was wondering why achievement felt so much like suffocation. By 7:30, she'd retreated to her office, the same space she'd slept in for the third time this week. Her desk chair still held the impression of her body from last night's 4-hour nap. The wall behind her desk displayed her life's accomplishments like evidence at trial: Harvard diploma, 3 publications in Nature, a photograph with Stephen Hawking taken months before his death. No family pictures, no vacation snapshots, no evidence that a human being actually occupied this space. In the corner, a succulent plant she'd forgotten to water had surrendered weeks ago, brown and brittle. Her assistant, Maya Rodriguez, appeared in the doorway holding coffee and radiating the kind of warmth that Victoria had forgotten how to produce. 28 years old, with kind eyes that hadn't yet been hardened by academic warfare. "Dr. Chen, you were here all night again?" Victoria didn't look up from her laptop. "I was working." "Some of us prioritize results over social lives, Maya." The words came out like small knives. They always did lately. Maya's expression flickered, hurt, then composed acceptance. The face of someone who'd learned to absorb her boss's cruelty as part of the job description. "You're 2 o'clock with Dean Winters. About the board's decision." Victoria's jaw clenched. "I'm aware." After Maya retreated, Victoria pulled up her phone calendar. Each entry was a tombstone marking bridges she'd burned. Mom's death anniversary. Today, no plans. Sarah's wedding, college roommate, RSVP declined. Fertility clinic consultation, postponed 4 times, now expired. Her last relationship had ended 3 years ago. His final words still echoed in quiet moments. "You choose equations over humans, Victoria. And equations don't keep you warm at 3 a.m. She'd solved a proof that night, published it 6 months later, won an award. She'd been right. She'd been completely, irreversibly alone. Across campus, in the basement custodial break room that smelled of industrial cleaner and exhaustion, Lucas Hayes was clocking out after a 12-hour shift. 34 years old, with hands that had once written theorems that changed mathematics, now calloused from mopping floors and scrubbing toilets. He peeled off his uniform shirt, revealing a faded Yale t-shirt underneath, a ghost he couldn't quite bury. His phone buzzed, a text from his daughter. "Daddy, I made you breakfast." For the first time in 12 hours, Lucas Hayes smiled. His apartment was small, barely 600 square feet in a building where the heat worked intermittently, and the neighbors played music that vibrated through the walls at 2 a.m. But every surface told a story of love. Zoe's crayon drawings taped to the fridge, stick figure families holding hands, mathematical equations she'd copied from library books because she wanted to be smart like Daddy used to be. 7-year-old Zoe bounced at the kitchen table, beaming beside a plate of pancakes that were charcoal on one side and raw batter on the other. Daddy, look, I made breakfast. I used the recipe Mommy taught me. Lucas's heart performed its daily miracle, breaking and healing in the same breath. He sat down, cut into the disaster of a pancake like it was Michelin-starred cuisine. These are perfect, baby. Your mom would be so proud. Zoe's smile faltered, her 7-year-old face suddenly ancient with grief. I miss her. Do you think she's proud of us? Even though we're not fancy anymore? Lucas set down his fork, pulled his daughter into his lap. His throat tightened. No tears, just the physical sensation of holding everything together. Every single day, Zoe, she'd be proud of you. You know why? Why? Because you're kind. Because you make pancakes with love instead of perfection. Because you don't measure people by their job titles. Zoe hugged him so tight his ribs ached. I love you, Daddy. I love you more than mathematics, baby. And that's saying something. If Victoria had seen inside Lucas's apartment, she might have noticed the photo wall, might have recognized the beautiful woman in the ER nurse's uniform, holding a newborn baby, her smile so radiant it seemed to generate its own light. Michelle Hayes, dead at 29. Pancreatic cancer that moved like wildfire through her body, consuming everything. Lucas had been Dr. Ethan Ward then, the youngest Fields Medal winner in history at 19, the prodigy who'd solved problems that had stumped mathematicians for decades. MIT was offering $2 million for a 3-year research position. Tech companies courted him with packages that included stock options and private jets. Then Michelle got sick. Stage 4. 6 months, maybe a year with experimental treatment. The treatment wasn't covered by insurance. $287,000 just to begin. Lucas sold everything, dropped out of MIT's program overnight, took 3 jobs, tutoring, coding, consulting, sleeping 4 hours a night while Michelle held their infant daughter, and apologized through morphine-dulled pain for ruining his brilliant future. She died 6 months later in a state hospital, holding his hand, whispering, "Take care of our baby," with her last conscious breath. That night, Lucas burned every research paper he'd ever written in the hospital parking lot, threw his Fields Medal into a dumpster behind the building, legally changed his name from Ethan Ward to Lucas Hayes, his mother's maiden name, a ghost identity for a ghost of a man. Dr. Ethan Ward ceased to exist. Lucas Hayes, janitor, single father, anonymous, took his place. At 9:30 that morning, Victoria was teaching advanced topology to 40 undergraduates who watched her with expressions somewhere between awe and terror. She was midway through a proof on Riemann tensor transformations, chalk flying across the blackboard with surgical precision, when a student named Marcus Chen raised his hand tentatively. Professor, I think there might be a sign error in line 3. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Victoria turned slowly, her expression glacial. Perhaps if you'd done the assigned reading, Marcus, you'd understand why that's intentional. Marcus shrank into his seat. Several students studied their notebooks intensely, desperate to avoid becoming the next target. The door at the back of the lecture hall opened. Lucas Hayes entered quietly, pushing his cleaning cart along the wall. He was covering a day shift for a sick coworker, and his entire job description was invisibility. Empty the trash, leave, disturb no one. But his eyes caught the blackboard, and before he could stop himself, before muscle memory from a buried life could be suppressed, he muttered, "That's not intentional. That's wrong." Victoria's chalk stopped mid-stroke. 40 students turned as one organism. Lucas froze, realizing his catastrophic mistake. "Excuse me?" Victoria's voice was soft, lethal. "I... Nothing, ma'am. I apologize for interrupting." But Marcus was already Googling frantically on his laptop, his voice emerging small and terrified. "Wait, he's right. Professor Chen, the Riemann tensor transformation in line 3 should be negative." The humiliation hit Victoria like a physical blow. 40 phones materialized, recording. 40 witnesses to the youngest tenured professor in Northwestern's history being corrected by a janitor. She verified the equation. He was right. She corrected it silently, her hand trembling with rage, then turned with a smile that held no warmth whatsoever. "Since you seem so knowledgeable," she said, her voice carrying across the lecture hall like a judge pronouncing sentence, "perhaps you'd like to solve this." She erased the entire board and began writing. An equation that stretched across 3 panels: Riemann tensors, topological manifolds, quantum field theory, mathematical elements that shouldn't coexist, woven into an elegant monstrosity. "I made a public challenge last month," Victoria continued, each word dripping with contempt. "Anyone who solves this equation, I'll marry them on the spot. Surely someone with your expertise would accept." The room held its breath. Phones recorded everything. Lucas stared at the equation, at this woman wielding mathematics like a weapon, at 40 students watching him with pity. Something old and buried stirred in his chest. Not pride, something deeper. Dignity. "How long do I have?" Victoria's smile widened into something predatory. "1 week. Don't disappoint me." Lucas left without another word, his cleaning cart squeaking down the hallway like a retreat. What Victoria didn't know, what she couldn't see through her armor of arrogance, was that Zoe had been waiting outside the lecture hall. School district had a teacher planning day, and she'd come to meet her father for their promised trip to the library. She'd watched the entire confrontation through the door's window. "Daddy," Zoe said as Lucas emerged, her small face twisted with confusion and protective anger. "Why was that mean lady yelling at you?" Lucas knelt down, eye level with his daughter, his chest constricting. "She wasn't yelling, baby. She just didn't expect me to know things. But Mommy said you're the smartest person ever. Why don't you tell people?" Lucas pulled his daughter close, breathing in the strawberry shampoo scent of her hair, his throat aching with everything he couldn't say. Because being smart didn't save her, Zoe. Nothing did. And sometimes it's easier to be invisible than to remember who you used to be. Down the hallway, Victoria had followed, not to apologize because she'd forgotten how to form those words, but because guilt was chewing through her armor in ways she wasn't prepared for. She rounded the corner just in time to hear Zoe say, "Mommy told me you used to be famous," before she got sick and we had to move to the small apartment. Victoria pressed her back against the wall, listened. "That was a long time ago, baby. But you're still smart, Daddy. Why does that lady think cleaning makes you stupid?" Lucas's voice cracked. "Because people see what they want to see, and she wants to see someone beneath her. It makes her feel safer." Zoe's response was pure 7-year-old clarity. "That's sad. For her, I mean. Mommy said the loneliest people are the meanest." Victoria stood frozen as father and daughter walked away hand in hand, their shadows stretching down the corridor. What have I done? By noon, the video had 30,000 views. By 2 o'clock, when Victoria entered Dean Winter's office, it had climbed to 53,000. Dean Robert Winters was 58, with steel gray hair and eyes that had witnessed enough academic warfare to recognize an incoming missile when he saw one. He turned his computer screen toward her without preamble. The video was everywhere: TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit. Student Jennifer Wu's caption, "Elitist professor versus working class hero." Guess who was right? The comments section was a firing squad. This is everything wrong with higher education. Imagine being that insecure about a janitor knowing math. She probably makes 10x his salary for being half as smart. Eat the rich. Victoria's vision blurred at the edges. The Board of Trustees has received formal complaints, Dean Winters said carefully, like someone handling nitroglycerin. The university's reputation is delicate right now. This viral moment isn't helping. It was a misunderstanding, Victoria managed, her voice hollow. Was it? Dean Winters slid a manila folder across his desk. This is Lucas Hayes's personnel file, but you should know who he really is. Victoria opened the folder with trembling hands. A face she recognized, younger, happier, unbroken, stared back from a photograph. Dr. Ethan Ward, Fields Medal recipient, 2015, Yale PhD, revolutionary work in nonlinear differential equations. An article clipping, Math prodigy vanishes after wife's cancer death. Mathematics community baffles at disappearance. The office tilted. That can't be. He applied under a legal name change to protect his privacy and his daughter's safety. We honored that request. Dean Winters' voice hardened. But now, Victoria, you've publicly humiliated possibly the greatest mathematical mind of his generation while being recorded by 40 smartphones. I didn't know. You didn't ask. The dean stood, signaling the meeting's end. Fix this, Dr. Chen, meaningfully, or the board will reconsider your position. We needed warmth from you. This is the opposite of warmth. This is cruelty on camera. Victoria didn't sleep that night. She sat in her minimalist apartment, 800 square feet of expensive furniture and suffocating loneliness, and fell down an internet rabbit hole. Boy genius Ethan Ward solves millennium problem at 19. Ward and Hayes wed in Cambridge. A photo of two people so young and in love, it physically hurt to witness. Michelle Hayes, 29. Loving mother and dedicated ER nurse. An obituary from 2019 that mentioned medical debt and a surviving daughter. Where is Ethan Ward? Mathematics community launches. Search for missing prodigy. The story assembled itself like a proof she couldn't refute. He didn't fail. He chose love over legacy. And what had she chosen? Victoria looked around her apartment, at the awards gathering dust, at the silence that had become her only companion, at the life she constructed that felt more like a tomb with every passing year. She'd chosen this emptiness, this cold, glittering nothing. Over the next 3 days, Victoria Chen did something unprecedented in her carefully controlled life. She became a stalker, not with malice, with the desperate curiosity of someone who just realized they'd been reading the map of life upside down for 33 years. 6 in the morning, Tuesday, Victoria sat in her car across from Lakeview Elementary School, watching Lucas walk Zoe to the entrance. He was attempting to braid her hair on a bench, his large hands moving carefully through the small braids, occasionally making mistakes that Zoe patiently corrected. When Zoe laughed at something he said, her whole face lighting up, Victoria felt something crack open in her chest, an avalanche she'd been holding back for years. 3 in the afternoon, Wednesday. Victoria followed Lucas to a parent-teacher conference, pretending she had business with the school counselor. She lingered outside the classroom, heard Zoe's teacher say, "Her math skills are truly exceptional. Does it run in the family?" And Lucas, with the humility of someone who'd lost everything and gained perspective, replied, "Her mother was the brilliant one. I'm just trying not to mess her up too badly." 8 at night, Thursday, the public library on Damen Avenue. Not Northwestern's fortress of academic knowledge, but the neighborhood branch where families came because it was free, warm, and offered hope. Zoe sat at a corner table doing homework, occasionally asking Lucas questions. He sat beside her reading Journal of Advanced Mathematics, the same journal Victoria subscribed to, the same current issue. He never stopped loving mathematics. He just stopped letting it define his humanity. Victoria drove home that night and allowed herself to cry for the first time in 3 years. The sound was ugly, raw, years of suppressed emotion flooding out in her car's darkness. On day 4, the second video detonated across the internet. Jennifer Wu, bless her social media addicted heart, had posted new footage. This time it showed Lucas in a Northwestern hallway helping a panicked graduate student with a differential equation that had stumped her thesis committee. The student had been on the verge of quitting her doctorate program. Lucas solved it in 4 minutes, explaining each step with patience Victoria had never possessed, his voice gentle and encouraging. Caption: Janitor Genius saves grad students' PhD plot twist of the century. 2 million views in 24 hours. The comments shifted. Is this the guy that Professor humiliated? He's protecting his daughter's privacy. That's why he's anonymous. Respect. We don't deserve this, man. Meanwhile, that professor is probably crying into her designer handbag. Local news vans materialized outside Northwestern like vultures. Dean Winters fielded calls from the Chicago Tribune, NPR, CNN. The story had everything: class warfare, hidden genius, redemption potential. And Dr. Richard Blackwell, 45, charismatic, newly appointed department chair, saw his opportunity crystallizing. Friday evening, Lucas was leaving his shift when Blackwell materialized from the parking garage shadows. Mr. Hayes, or should I address you as Dr. Ward? Lucas's entire body went rigid. He turned slowly. Blackwell smiled like a predator who'd cornered wounded prey. I know exactly who you are, and soon everyone will know. But I'm offering you a choice first. I don't want anything from you. Hear me out. Blackwell stepped closer, his voice dropping to conspiratorial intimacy. Help me destroy Victoria Chen publicly. She's made powerful enemies on the board. Monday's demonstration? Make her look foolish. Freeze up. Fail spectacularly. In return, I'll reinstate you as full professor, $200,000 salary, your daughter's college fund, fully funded, your wife's medical debt, all $300,000 erased completely. Lucas's hands clenched into fists. My daughter doesn't need blood money. Then you're protecting the woman who humiliated you on camera. Blackwell's laugh was cruel. That's either Stockholm Syndrome or spectacular stupidity. It's called being human, Lucas said quietly, his voice steady despite the rage coursing through him. You should research the concept. He turned to walk away. Blackwell's voice followed like a threat. Monday morning, Lucas. Fail publicly or I'll ensure every news outlet in America knows Ethan Ward is alive. Your daughter's face will be plastered across CNN, Fox, MSNBC. Her privacy destroyed, her safety compromised. Think carefully about who you're protecting. Saturday afternoon, Victoria found herself at Maple Grove Playground, clutching 2 coffees like protective talismans. Lucas was pushing Zoe on the swings, her laughter carrying across the park like wind chimes. Victoria approached like someone approaching a detonation site, uncertain whether she'd survive the conversation. Mr. Hayes, Lucas, can we talk? Lucas's protective instincts activated immediately. Zoe, baby, can you play on the slide for a few minutes? Zoe hopped off the swing, then stopped, studied Victoria with the brutal honesty only children possess. You're the mean teacher from Daddy's work. Victoria's rehearsed apology evaporated. She knelt down to the child's eye level, her designer jeans pressing into playground dirt, and met Zoe's gaze directly. You're absolutely right. I was mean, and I'm very sorry. Why were you mean to him? Because your daddy helped me when I made a mistake, and instead of thanking him, I was rude. That was wrong. Zoe considered this with 7-year-old gravity. What's 128 times 17? Victoria blinked, thrown. 2,176? You took 5 seconds. Daddy did it in his head in 2 seconds. He's smarter, Victoria laughed. A genuine sound, rusty from years of disuse. You're absolutely right. He is much smarter than me. Zoe's expression softened fractionally. Okay, you can talk to him, but don't make him sad. He's already sad a lot. She skipped toward the slides. Lucas's eyes were wet. They sat on a bench. Victoria handed him the second coffee. I looked you up, she said without preamble. Ethan Ward, the Fields Medal, Yale, your wife Michelle. Everything. I'm so sorry for your loss. Don't apologize for who I was. Apologize for how you treated who I am. The words landed like a punch. Victoria absorbed them, nodded slowly. You're right. She stared at her coffee cup. I treated you like you were invisible, because that's how I feel every single day. Invisible despite all my achievements. Lucas turned to really look at her, studied her face. I have 3 degrees from Harvard, Victoria continued, her voice fracturing. I've published papers that advanced entire fields. I'm the youngest tenured professor in Northwestern's history. And when I'm terrified at 3 a.m., I don't have a single person I can call. She gestured toward Zoe, now climbing the jungle gym with fearless joy. You lost everything. Your career, your wife, your identity, and you still have more than me because you have her, and she looks at you like you personally installed the stars. Lucas was quiet for a long moment, processing. Victoria, may I call you that? Please. I was angry initially, humiliated. But I've watched you teach. You're genuinely brilliant. You've just forgotten why mathematics matters. What do you mean? I didn't quit mathematics because Michelle died. I quit because I realized I'd been pursuing it for entirely wrong reasons. He sipped his coffee. I wanted awards, recognition, proof that I was special. But being special means nothing when you're alone in a hospital room watching someone you love die, and all your genius can't save them. Victoria's vision blurred. Then why did you accept my challenge? Lucas smiled sadly. Because Zoe saw the video. She asked me, Daddy, why did you let that lady be mean to you? And I realized I've been hiding, not from the world, from myself. I need to show her that intelligence isn't shameful, but neither is honest work. They're both just different ways of serving. Victoria wiped her eyes. The equation I gave you, it's not just difficult, it's designed to be unsolvable. A trap I created to humiliate anyone arrogant enough to attempt it. Lucas nodded slowly. I suspected as much. You did? I recognize the structure, but I'm going to solve it anyway. How is that possible? Because I'm not trying to prove intellectual superiority, Victoria. I'm trying to understand what you were really asking beneath the cruelty. Sunday evening, Lucas's apartment. Zoe answered the door, saw Victoria holding a bakery box, and shrieked with pure delight. You came back. Did you bring cake? I wasn't sure what flavor you liked. Chocolate. You're smart and nice now. Inside, the apartment was small but saturated with love. Photos of Michelle covered every surface. On the fridge, the walls, the mantel. Not a shrine to grief, but a celebration of love that transcended death. Victoria stopped before one photo. Michelle in ER scrubs, laughing at something beyond the camera's frame. I'm sorry I never got to know her, Victoria whispered. She clearly raised an extraordinary daughter. Lucas appeared beside her. Michelle was an ER nurse. 60-hour weeks, $45,000 salary. She would have liked you. She always said the cruelest people are usually the most terrified. They worked at the kitchen table while Zoe completed homework nearby. occasionally interrupting to ask Victoria questions about fractions and decimals. Lucas showed Victoria his approach, not conquering the equation through force, but engaging it through understanding. "Look here," he pointed. "You constructed this adversarially. What if we approach it collaboratively instead?" "I don't follow." "Mathematics isn't warfare, Victoria. It's communication. A language meant for connection, not domination." At 11 p.m., Zoe fell asleep on the couch between them, her head resting on Victoria's lap. Lucas smiled. "She never falls asleep near strangers." Victoria stroked the child's hair with trembling fingers, something maternal awakening in her chest. "Maybe I'm not a stranger anymore." Her phone buzzed. Email from an anonymous account. Subject: "Withdraw from Monday or secrets destroy you." Attached: scanned legal documents, court filings from 2012, her father's embezzlement case, the covered-up scandal, the stolen money that funded her Harvard education. Message: "Everyone will know the Chen family fortune was built on fraud. Withdraw by midnight or Monday morning, I release everything. Your career dies publicly." Victoria's hands shook so violently she nearly dropped the phone. "What's wrong?" Lucas asked, seeing her face drain of color. She couldn't form words, just handed him the phone with numb fingers. Lucas read, his expression darkening with each line. "Who sent this?" "I don't know." Victoria's voice was barely audible. "But it's all true. My father embezzled $300,000 from his company. He used it to pay my Harvard tuition. I didn't know until I was 25, after he died." "How did he die?" "Suicide. 8 years ago, when the truth was about to go public." A single tear tracked down her cheek. "He left a note apologizing to me for ruining my future." The silence was heavy. "I've been paying every cent back," Victoria continued, her voice breaking. "Plus interest. That's why I live in a studio apartment on a professor's salary. I make $150,000, but I only take home 42. Everything else goes to restitution. I've paid back 260,000 so far." Lucas set down the phone deliberately, took her hand. "Then we don't withdraw. We face this. Together. All of it." Zoe woke up, blinking sleepily. "Why are you sad, Victoria?" Victoria wiped her eyes quickly. "Sometimes adults make mistakes, sweetheart, and they're scared people will find out and judge them." Zoe sat up, fully awake now. "Did your mistake hurt someone?" "My father's mistake did. Not mine directly, but I benefited from it without knowing." Zoe tilted her head, processing with surprising sophistication. "But you didn't steal anything. Daddy says you can't control what other people do, only what you do next." Victoria stared at the 7-year-old philosopher. "You're absolutely right," she breathed. "I've been so afraid of judgment, I forgot to actually be someone worth defending." Lucas kissed his daughter's forehead. "Bedtime, brilliant girl." As Zoe padded to her bedroom, Victoria looked at Lucas with wonder. "Why are you helping me after what I did to you?" "Because Michelle would have," Lucas said simply. "She believed everyone deserves grace, especially people who don't think they deserve it." Outside, in a black sedan parked across the street with tinted windows, Dr. Richard Blackwell lowered his camera. He'd photographed Victoria entering Lucas's building, staying for hours, leaving looking different. Softer, more human, perfect ammunition. He sent a text to his associate. "Monday, 8 a.m., release the Chen scandal to every media outlet. Tribune, Sun-Times, all major networks. Destroy them both before the demonstration begins." Monday morning arrived like an execution. The main lecture hall at Northwestern University, designed for 500, held over 700 souls. Students occupied every seat, sat in aisles, stood against walls. Faculty filled the first 3 rows. 3 local news crews claimed the back. The Chicago Tribune dispatched their education reporter. Someone from NPR set up audio equipment. At the podium, Dean Robert Winters resembled a man watching his career self-immolate in real time. Lucas Hayes arrived at precisely 10 a.m., still wearing his janitor's uniform, a deliberate choice. Zoe walked beside him in her favorite purple dress. She'd insisted on coming. Elementary school attendance be damned. Victoria sat in the front row, her armor of designer clothing replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. When Zoe passed, the child reached out and squeezed Victoria's hand. Victoria nearly shattered. Lucas approached the blackboard, picked up chalk with a hand that trembled visibly. 700 eyes watched. Cameras focused. Richard Blackwell lurked in the back row, anticipating triumph. Lucas looked at Zoe. She gave an enthusiastic thumbs up. He looked at Victoria. She nodded with a faith that surprised them both. He began to write. The first transformation appeared in elegant, precise script, unconventional approach. Several emeritus professors leaned forward sharply. Lucas worked methodically, board after board filled with mathematics that sang. His handwriting was careful but unpracticed, muscle memory returning after 5 years of hibernation. 20 minutes became 40, 40 became an hour. The audience sat transfixed. Even people who couldn't parse the equations felt something profound unfolding. Victoria watched Lucas's face, saw the 19-year-old prodigy emerge from the exhausted 34-year-old janitor like a phoenix remembering flight, saw the exact moment he stopped being afraid and started being himself. 1 hour and 37 minutes after he started, Lucas wrote the final transformation with a flourish. Step back. 5 blackboards filled with mathematics so elegant, it made non-mathematicians feel beauty they couldn't name. The silence stretched like elastic about to snap. Then Professor Harrison, 70 years old, 45 years teaching experience, stood slowly, his knees cracking audibly. My God! His voice fractured with emotion. It's not just correct, it's revolutionary. This will change the entire field. The applause was instantaneous, thunderous. Cameras flashed like strobe lights. Students stood on chairs cheering, but Lucas raised his hand. The room fell silent immediately. Before you celebrate, Lucas said, his voice steady but weighted with emotion, I need to say something important. He set down the chalk, turned to face the crowd. My name is Lucas Hayes, but 15 years ago, I was Dr. Ethan Ward. The gasps rippled through the hall like a physical wave. Phones emerged from pockets. Frantic Googling commenced. I didn't solve this equation to prove intellectual superiority. I've always known I'm intelligent. That was never in question. Lucas found Zoe's face in the crowd. I solved it because my 7-year-old daughter watched a viral video of someone mocking me, and she asked, Daddy, why do people think cleaning toilets makes you stupid? His voice caught. I didn't have a good answer, because there is no good answer. My wife Michelle was an ER nurse. She saved actual lives. She earned $45,000 annually. I was a mathematician. I manipulated abstract concepts. I earned over $200,000. Our society claimed I was worth more. But when she developed cancer, my mathematical genius couldn't save her. Her medical expertise couldn't save her. Nothing could. Tears appeared on faces throughout the audience. What saved me, what gave my life meaning after losing her, was love. The courage to release who I was supposed to be and become who my daughter needed. Lucas looked directly at Victoria. Professor Chen challenged me with this equation as mockery, a weapon forged from her own pain and insecurity. But she accomplished something far more important than issuing challenges. She changed. She could have allowed me to fail, protected her fragile ego. Instead, she helped me, sat at my kitchen table with my daughter, and collaborated with me as equals. not superior to subordinate. As humans, his voice strengthened. The real equation requiring solution isn't on these boards. It's this. How do we value each other as human beings? How do we truly see each other? Because I promise you, the janitor cleaning your office at midnight, the nurse monitoring your vitals at 3 a.m., the teacher staying late for struggling students, they're not less than you. They're solving different problems, equally important problems. The standing ovation was deafening. Lucas turned to Zoe. "Baby, come here." She sprinted up. He lifted her into his arms. "This is Zoe Hayes. Her mother was extraordinary. Her father is doing his absolute best. And I need the world she inherits to value her for who she is as a person, not what she achieves on paper." The applause intensified, sustained, genuine. Then Richard Blackwell stood, unable to resist the spotlight. "Deeply touching," he said, his voice dripping with theatrical sarcasm. "But before we canonize St. Ethan, perhaps Professor Chen should confess her family's sins?" He produced a remote control. Clicked. The projection screen behind Lucas illuminated. Financial documents, court filings, names highlighted in yellow. Embezzlement scandal, Chen Industries 2012, $300,000 stolen. The room went glacial. Victoria Chen's prestigious Harvard education, Blackwell announced with relish, was funded entirely by stolen money. $300,000 embezzled from investors. She's a fraud built on criminal foundation. Victoria stood, the room spinning violently. This was it. Career annihilated. Reputation destroyed. Life over. But Lucas stepped forward calmly. "Yes," he said, "and she disclosed everything to me 3 days ago." He pulled a folded document from his pocket. "This is her resignation letter from Northwestern University, dated Saturday. She was prepared to sacrifice her career to protect the university's reputation from scandal." Victoria's eyes widened in shock. "Lucas, what are you—" "She was willing to give up everything," Lucas continued, his voice carrying authority, "because she possesses genuine integrity." Dean Winters stood. "Dr. Chen, is this accurate?" Victoria's voice trembled but held. "My father committed suicide 8 years ago when his crimes were exposed. I've been paying full restitution ever since. Every stolen cent plus interest. I was 18 when I enrolled at Harvard. I didn't know the tuition money was stolen. But when I discovered the truth at 25, I should have immediately disclosed it publicly. I was afraid of judgment, afraid of losing everything I'd worked for." Her voice cracked. "I'm exhausted from fear. I resign." Profound silence. Then Maya Rodriguez stood from her position 5 rows back. "I have something everyone needs to hear." All eyes turned to Victoria's assistant. "Dr. Chen has been anonymously funding full scholarships for underprivileged students for 5 consecutive years. I know this because I process departmental payroll. After restitution payments, she takes home $42,000 annually from a $150,000 salary. She lives in a 400-square-foot studio apartment in Wicker Park. Her meals are predominantly ramen and coffee." Maya held up printed financial records. "She's been making amends silently, helping students who remind her of herself, brilliant but disadvantaged. She never wanted credit or recognition." Students began standing spontaneously. One by one, voices emerged. "She stayed until midnight helping me understand topology when I was failing. She personally wrote my medical school recommendation letter. She bought my textbooks when financial aid fell through. She gave me her office key so I could study there when my apartment had no heat." The chorus of voices grew, a wave of testimony building momentum. Dean Winters raised his hand for silence, looked at Victoria with new eyes. "You're not resigning, Dr. Chen. The board will review this situation comprehensively. But quietly repaying your father's debts while helping disadvantaged students succeed, that embodies everything this university claims to value. Blackwell was incandescent with rage. This is absurd. She benefited from criminal activity. No, Lucas said, his voice pure ice. You attempted to manipulate the situation criminally. He pulled out his phone, played audio with perfect clarity. Blackwell's voice filled the hall. Make her look foolish Monday. Fail publicly. In return, full professorship, 200,000 salary, your wife's debt erased. Refuse, and I'll ensure every media outlet knows Ethan Ward is alive. Your daughter's face on every screen. The room erupted in outraged voices. Dean Winters's face turned purple. Richard, my office! Immediately! Security! Two campus security officers materialized, escorting Blackwell toward the exit as he shouted increasingly desperate threats that no one was listening to anymore. Lucas turned to Victoria. You were prepared to sacrifice everything for people who didn't even know you were protecting them. Victoria's careful makeup was destroyed by tears. It's what you did for Michelle. I learned from the best teacher. 3 months later, spring transformed Northwestern's campus into something from a painting. Cherry blossoms lining pathways, students studying on the lawn, the smell of new beginnings saturating the air. In the same lecture hall where Lucas solved the impossible, Dean Winters stood before a considerably friendlier audience. Today we launched the Michelle Hayes Memorial Scholarship Fund, supporting children of healthcare workers pursuing higher education. Sustained applause. Funded jointly by Dr. Ethan Ward. Lucas waved from the front row, still wearing his janitor's uniform for his daily grounding hour, who has resumed research while maintaining his custodial commitment. And Dr. Victoria Chen, recently promoted to director of our newly established Equitable Education Initiative. Victoria stood. Her new role, part-time teaching, full-time dedication to supporting first-generation college students. Work-life balance contractually guaranteed. She looked transformed, her hair loose around her shoulders, actually smiling. Dean Winters continued, I'm also pleased to announce that Dr. Richard Blackwell's employment has been permanently terminated following a comprehensive ethics investigation by the Illinois Board of Higher Education. He will not teach again. Applause tinged with satisfaction. 6 months after that, same lecture hall, Victoria teaching topology to engaged students, Lucas in the back corner, mopping floors, his daily ritual of humility. Suddenly he interrupted. Professor Chen, I have a question about our current topic. The class turned, grinning. They all knew what was coming. Victoria played along perfectly. Mr. Hayes, this had better be mathematically relevant. Lucas walked to the front, picked up chalk with theatrical deliberation, wrote on the board, V plus L plus Z dot key. The class exploded with excitement. Phones emerged instantly. Lucas set down the chalk, dropped to one knee with surprising grace. Victoria Chen, I've been working on this particular equation extensively, attempting to solve for family, but I need your help with the variables. He produced a simple silver ring from his pocket. You taught me that redemption isn't erasing painful history. It's constructing better futures from broken pieces. You sat at my kitchen table and consumed burnt pancakes with my daughter. You chose integrity over institutional reputation. You proved that brilliance combined with humanity creates the brightest possible light. Zoe sprinted up from her hiding spot in the front row, held up a hand-drawn sign decorated with glitter. Welcome home, Victoria. Please say yes, Zoe bounced. We already cleared space in our apartment for your stuff. Victoria was simultaneously crying and laughing. You two planned this elaborate conspiracy? Lucas smiled. Zoe insisted I ask her permission first, said women deserve agency in major life decisions. Zoe nodded seriously. So, do you choose us? Victoria knelt to Zoe's eye level, took the child's hands gently. I choose you both, every single day, forever. She kissed Lucas. The room erupted with genuine joy. 1 year later, a modestly larger apartment in Logan Square. 2 bedrooms instead of one. Photos of Michelle still displayed prominently throughout, Victoria had insisted. She's part of our family story, Victoria had said firmly. Zoe's artwork covered the refrigerator in chaotic glory. A small wedding photo occupied the mantel. Courthouse ceremony, Zoe as flower girl in a dress she designed herself. At the dinner table, Lucas cooking, Victoria helping Zoe with increasingly complex homework, ordinary, beautiful chaos. Mom, Zoe caught herself mid-word. Victoria, is it okay if I call you Mom? Victoria set down her pencil. Tears arrived immediately. Only if that feels right to you, sweetheart. No pressure. I want to, but I need to make sure it's okay with Mommy Michelle first. Lucas knelt with them both, creating their small circle. Your mommy loved enormously. She'd want you surrounded by all the love possible. Zoe nodded with characteristic seriousness. Okay then. Mom, can you help me solve this quadratic equation? Victoria met Lucas's eyes across their daughter's head. Our daughter is requesting my mathematical assistance. Your legacy thrives. Lucas kissed her forehead. Our daughter, our shared legacy. Final scene. Northwestern University courtyard. Late afternoon sun transforming everything golden. Lucas in his janitor's uniform, Victoria in comfortable jeans and a worn sweater. She'd abandoned armor completely. Zoe between them, swinging their hands rhythmically. They stopped at a newly installed memorial bench. Michelle Hayes, 1990, 2019. ER nurse, devoted mother, teacher of unconditional love. Victoria placed fresh flowers carefully. Lucas added a recent photo, Michelle holding newborn Zoe, both radiant. Zoe contributed a hand-drawn card decorated with hearts. We love you forever, Mommy number one. They stood together, a family constructed from shattered pieces. Living proof that love solves equations mathematics never could. Victoria's voiceover began as they walked toward golden sunset. They claim mathematics is the universe's fundamental language. But the most important equation I learned came from a janitor who refused invisibility. Love minus ego equals genuine connection. Sacrifice plus humility equals meaningful purpose. And intelligence multiplied by compassion equals a life that actually matters. 3 figures, hand in hand, walked into golden light. The camera lingered on Michelle's memorial bench, on her captured smile. On proof that the most elegant solutions are discovered together.